Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video. This is part 4 of my end of the year extravaganza. My previous 3 were my 2020 book haul where I irresponsibly waited until the last minute to do a book haul this year. And then to get to know me better, I did a video where I discussed my favorite and then most hated books of all time. This is a follow-up to those, but will focus on just my least favorite books of this year. So strap in and grab your cocoa because it's rant time. One of the worst books I read this year, which made my all-time list, was back in January when I picked up Beasts Made of Night. The big selling point of this book was the cover, the diverse culture and the premise, which is a group of sin eaters that pull the sin out of people and consume it to keep their city pure. Usually when I'm reading a book as things interest me or stand out, I will put it in a draft on my blog. When I'm done, I will organize that info and put it into a cohesive review, which I will then transfer over to my Goodreads. But some books are so bad and have me notating so much that my blog turns into a full rant where you can just see my stream of consciousness as I lose my patience and sanity with the book. At that point, I leave the rant and just make a new review fresh on Goodreads. This is one of those books, and it deserves its 1 star. There were too many nonsensical, inconsistent, and just plain dumb plot elements in this book. Nothing was set up correctly, interactions, reveals, plot elements, nothing. Things that happened at the beginning of the book rarely mattered by the end. Other things that were introduced end up being paid off like the very next chapter. I didn't like the main character or almost any of the side characters. There were some good messages, even some good lines and thoughts, but when it comes from characters like these and in between plot elements like this, I don't really care. Pretty much after the 50% mark, I couldn't read a single chapter without finding something dumb, boring, or useless to the plot. The world doesn't make any sense because these sin eaters are the only things that keep their city protected and pure, and they are eating other people's sins, and yet no one respects them. They look down on them, and there's no formal training, and they're all just kids that rule themselves. There's also no sense of time or distance. You'll never know how long anything is taken. There's this terrible instant romance, and the ending is just a letdown. The next book after this, which I actually was looking forward to because unlike Beasts Made of Night, I had planned to pick this up. I even pre-ordered it and it wasn't just a random find. But this book was Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. It always seemed to me that this was supposed to be a queer fantasy novel about phoenixes. It mostly had this, but it was more like a superhero novel, with it being set in our world. The lore and world building was practically non-existent. The characters weren't that great, one of them probably being my most hated character this year, or of all time. If I did one of those who would you fight kind of tags or whatever, I would fight this dude without a doubt. What's worse is that same character does something so selfish and stupid at the end of this book that apparently it's killing him in the second novel, and they need to figure out a cure for him. So the sequel is about saving my most hated character? Yeah, that sounds like a hell no to me. I gave it 2 stars and unhauled it, but it still wasn't as bad as Beast Made of Night. It was at the end of March I read my next 2-star book, and this one really hurts. It's Peace and Turmoil. I love the author, I follow her on BookTube, but this book just didn't work for me. I made a very long, detailed critique on my channel if you're interested, but to summarize, some of the characters didn't get great development at all, the magic system wasn't very unique or how they used it, and my biggest grievance is that most of the interesting stuff about this world was all things that happened before this book started. There was a war that should have helped us understand the leaders, Gerard and Pierre. There was a revolution of a nation from slavery. There's a relationship between Gwen and Roland that is definitely their main plot, even though the romance isn't supposed to be, but I disagree. Dorian is the adopted son or ambassador to his nation. Dietrich is a prince assassin / fiend hunter. Abaddon is a brilliant potion maker and alchemist. Zodia was sheltered and alone on her island. There's a bunch of elites and soldiers with all these intense backstories, and all of this is not in the book. This is all just told to us as it's already happened. On top of all of that, some of the leaders in this book, primarily all the political decisions, were so badly implemented and had little logic. Looking back on it now, I know it's fairly long, 732 pages, but I don't really recall a lot happening. It essentially has middle book syndrome with it being the first book. Everything before it is really interesting, and this is more of a dragged out setup for everything after it. Super disappointed I couldn't love this, though I'm still interested in book 2 to support a self-published author. A couple of months later, I picked up Spin the Dawn, hands down my second least favorite novel of this year, behind Beast Made of Night. I gave this a 1 star and put it on my list of least favorite books of all times. This is marketed as a Mulan meets Project Runway, even though the competition is like over before the 50% mark. The competition in general is lackluster and unimaginative. It barely focuses on the art of the main character and more how she gets around being sabotaged. There's a setup for an intriguing moment with one of the antagonists, and it's completely missed and goes a different direction. Then the last half turns into this traveling story where we get a romance I did not expect. I thought it was dumb and the main character just had little to no growth. She actually had nowhere to grow. Unlike with Mulan, it's not like she came to this competition trying to be her best, she just already was. All the trials she faced after that were different forms of physical trials, where as long as she did exactly as the male companion says, she did fine. And then a cliched family in the spirit world final task, and then in the end you figure out basically everyone is terrible. I shouldn't care for this at all, and really I'm just disappointed I can't keep this book on my shelf because the cover is beautiful. I will quickly go over this next one as it was a D and F, but I picked up and didn't really care for The Last Sun. I thought the characters tried too hard to be edgy. The main character was the badass strong character who was the only one that could defeat the enemy. A lot of weird character introductions, and some of the world building just didn't work for me. I just had to put this down. The month after that, I had the misfortune of reading The Extraordinarians by TJ Klune. This is probably my most disappointed book after I had just read House in the Cerulean Sea by him earlier this year, and it's now one of my favorite books. So when I found out that he had another one coming out, it had queer characters, superheroes, and the main character is a writer, I was so excited. Unfortunately, I really didn't like this. There's this really annoying will they, won't they dynamic. We basically know the secrets for the entire book, but our character doesn't, so he just seems stupid and oblivious. The main character is really annoying, coming up with dumb ideas to get superpowers like microwaving a cricket and eating it. I was getting so frustrated with this book and ended up skimming the last half, and I just disliked it more and more about what was revealed. So this hands down wins my most disappointed book award. Such high hopes, completely dashed. Oh, imagine my surprise that I actually didn't have any books below 3 stars for the rest of the year. Of course, I'm not counting any books in December because I haven't finished them yet, but that's a pretty good way to end the year. So that's actually it. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you read any of these books and agree or disagree. I have one more video for my end of the year set, and it will be all my favorite books of the year. So I'm so excited to end this year with a gush. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye now.